James, please tell us about the boos when they cheered Taysom and booed Carr. Which game was it? That was the Detroit Lions game in the Superdome. I was there. It was the most surreal thing I've ever seen in the Dome. It was absolutely insane. The boos were deafening. It was unbelievable. It was one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed. So the first one is from Divine Eternity, who I believe is in chat. He is, yes. He's in chat. This is from Divine Eternity, commenter extraordinaire. Let's go ahead and take a listen, shall we? Here we go. Now my headset is back on.
And I appreciate the content. My question is it good or bad that the Saints have tough competition at the beginning of the schedule? The back end of our schedule is pretty manageable, and
Yes.
I believe most teams are still trying to find their rhythm and get back in playoff form when it's that early in the season. And on top of that, the new NFL rules are going to impact a lot of games too, because most of the players are still going to be trying to get used to it. So that's my question.
Great question. Yeah, I do think it's an advantage to play the tough teams early. The Chiefs are a team that has routinely come out of the gates kind of slow. A lot of teams do come out of the gate slow, especially when there's a change, or there's a change at OC or DC or head coach or quarterback or whatever. The Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons will not be as good in week 2 as they are in week 16 because it's their first couple of games with each other. It's Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator's first couple games as an OC, right? I also think it makes the team focus more. I think the Saints, knowing they're playing the Dallas Cowboys and the Kansas City Chiefs early, means they got to focus more. And they're circling those games. Everybody wants to go to Arrowhead, right? Everyone wants to play the Chiefs in prime time. Everybody wants to do that. So you're circling that game. So if that game is circled on the calendar and you're in week 3 or whatever, you are going to hit practice hard. You're going to hit training hard. You're going to try to study hard. You're going to be focused. Oh, and also it's a benefit because those teams, like the Chiefs, like the Cowboys, like the Panthers, have only seen one version of the Saints. So for the first couple of weeks, how the Saints will look offensively is the first time these teams have ever seen that. They have absolutely no idea what the Saints offense is going to look like. No clue. They cannot prepare for it until they see it. At the end of the year, teams will have a better idea of what we're going to do. They'll have a better idea of how the offense works, how we call things. We're a total mystery to start the season. So if we're a total mystery, we don't have really any new players to really get caught up to speed or anything as far as like moving and being in a new locker room and all that stuff like Kirk Cousins, like we talked about earlier. Because of that, yeah, I do think it's good that we're playing the tough teams early because we do have an advantage if we execute. It's all up to execution. If we execute the way that we should execute, yeah. If we don't, then it doesn't matter when we play them. So, great question. But yeah, I think it is an advantage. I do. Next up, Christopher. Minute 25 seconds. Respect. Christopher bringing the minute 25 to our doorstep.
Hey, James. This is Chris here. You might know me from the comment section under Cajun Legend.
The Cajun Legend himself, Christopher.
Just real quick, I wanted to ask, we always talk about, you always talk about, what you think the ceiling is for the Saints and being realistic and everything. And I agree 100%, everybody needs to have realistic expectations of what the season could hold. And I do think that I'm very optimistic as far as what the season is going to look like. I'm very optimistic on the impact that Kubiak's going to have.
Same. I'm very optimistic on this season for the Saints. 100%. I am, I'm positive about the changes. I believe in the changes. I could be wrong, but I am positive going into the season.
But my question to you is, why are you so dead set on say a deep playoff to Super Bowl run is very fairy tale, I guess you could say, because I don't understand why it wouldn't be possible, because I feel like most of our issues was with Pete Carmichael. So if we replaced him with someone as good as Clint, I don't see why a Super Bowl run couldn't be a thing, pending performance and everything else.
Okay. I mean, good question. Great question. I like that. So there's a few different answers to this question. So first of all, there's something called ranges when you're looking to, like, if we're going to go to poker, let's talk about poker. When you're playing poker, you want to put your opponents in ranges. You want to put, or even if you're playing blackjack, right? You believe that there's a range, there's a percentage, there's a chance, like, your outs. If you're playing really anything, you have to have percentages of victory and percentages of losses, and then you use those percentages to kind of project whatever's going to happen. If you're flipping a coin, the percentages, right? 50-50. There is a chance that the coin lands perfectly, vertically, and it's neither head nor tails, right? So there's always the highest variable. There's always the highest, like, a random team goes on a run and wins the Super Bowl, or a random team goes undefeated, or a random team loses every game. Like, there's always those highly polarized ends. But I think it's better to stay in the ranges, and you stay in those ranges to give you a better idea of, like, what to expect and what to judge everything on. Of course, if the Saints make the playoffs, then they could go on a crazy run like Joe Flacco did with the Ravens, or like Nick Foles did with the Eagles, and they could win the Super Bowl. Sure. No doubt about it. But it's better, the way that I operate, is better to stay in the realm of reality, and then if the surprises happen, the surprises happen. Like, if you're down 9-0 in the bottom of the ninth inning, the game isn't over, but it is a fairy tale to come back and win the game, right? Like, is it impossible? No. If you simulate it out 1,000 times, does it happen 10 times? Probably not, but it might happen 5 or 6 times. So, the fairy tale always exists, but to project it, to predict it, to, expect it, or to hope for it, I think is dangerous. Because then, if the Saints win 11 games, win the NFC South, and host a playoff game and lose, that is a very successful season. But if you are expecting a Super Bowl, all of a sudden that's a very disappointing season. So it warps reality. Just like if the 9-0 bottom of the ninth situation, if you're expecting the fairy tale, but you score 5 runs and lose 9-5, on one hand, it's like, damn, well, we did put up a rally at the end there, kind of made it comfortable. But if you're expecting the comeback, expecting the fairy tale, you're crushed, right? So that's one of the answers, okay? The other answer, I think it's very difficult for a team or a player to go from good to the best. So, like the Jacksonville Jaguars, good example. Or the Detroit Lions, good example. But the Jaguars, 2 years ago, when they won the playoff game and all that, everybody was picking them to win the AFC Championship. Everyone was picking them as their dark horse team. Everybody. Everyone was picking Trevor Lawrence to win the MVP. Everyone said Jacksonville was ready to take the next step. But then when I was saying, this is the team that won like 3 games, 5 games, then 10 games, and now you expect them to go to that next level and win a Super Bowl? It takes time. It takes time to learn how to win. It takes time to learn how to be a NFC champion. It takes time to learn how to be a conference champion, or to be a Super Bowl champion, or to appear in a Super Bowl. All that takes time. So, like the Texans, are they ready all of a sudden to take that next step? Are they ready to all of a sudden be, they're an AFC contender? Jordan Love's a good example. Jordan Love's a franchise guy. Is he a franchise guy? He had a good season. The Texans won 10 games. The Saints won 9 games. The ESPN wants the Saints to tear it down and rebuild, and they're predicting the Texans to win the AFC. That's a great example of how narratives and fairy tales and all of that can get you in some serious trouble. Okay? So I think it's an incremental thing. I think and like I said, of course, the fairy tale does happen where there is no incremental jumps and a random team, Leicester City in the Premier League, if y'all follow soccer. I know a lot of y'all do. Leicester City was like 5,000 to 1 the year they won the Premier League. It was an absolute fairy tale. It was an absolute dream. A couple of years later, they get relegated. Like, yeah, if you simulate out the Premier League season that year 1,000 times, Leicester might only win it one time. And we saw the one time. We saw the miracle. We saw the fairy tale. But you don't want to go into the season saying, oh, yeah, Leicester's going to win the Premier League this year. Like, they could, I guess, but you got to be able to separate fairy tale from prediction or analysis. So that's my two-part answer to a very good question. But I mean, and it is confusing sometimes when you can be super positive. Like, I am positive on the Saints this season. I am happy with the changes. I do think Clint Kubiak's a good coach. I do think all this is trending in the right direction. But again, I don't think 12 wins is feasible. Like, I don't think 12 wins is something that would happen like more than 10 to 15% of Sims. So I think I really think the way that I look at it is because of sports betting. I really do. Because I just see everything as like the percentages and I'm looking at the numbers and all of that, and then so I think that's why I stay away from all of like the super grandiose projections. Good caught up in chat here. People confuse what they want versus what we need to accomplish our goals at hand, which is at least winning the division. Great point. That's a good point, CJ, where people say like we're going to win the division, and then say we're going to win the division. I predict Saints go 14-3. And it's like, well, hold on a second. If the Saints are 14-3, they're probably the best team in the NFL. Like, you don't have to be 14-3 to win the division. You could be 11-6 and win the division. Like you're taking a baby step with winning the division, but then you're taking a huge step with winning 13, 14 games. Right? Like, so, like, if you're I think the Bengals, I think their win total is only like 10. I think their win total is 9.5 or 10, right? The Bengals are a Super Bowl contender, for sure. But even a team like that with Joe Burrow, who has been to the Super Bowl, like, it's really hard to win 11, 12, 13, 14 games. It's really hard to get to a Super Bowl. Like, there are really good teams. There are Aaron Rodgers-led, MVP-led, 15-1 Packers teams who didn't even make the Super Bowl. It is very difficult to do that. So to predict it is, I think, a little reckless. I hope y'all in Louisiana know how much our Ohioans appreciate our symbiotic relationship in college and pro football. I have much love for Ohio. I have a lot of good people who either live in Ohio, went to school at Ohio State, who I've known for a while now, and yeah, I root for the Ohio teams for all my pals from there. Same with the Texans. There you go, Brute. There you go. Yep. Actual winning bettors don't get caught up in Stephen A. Smith's narratives. Agreed. I would assume ESPN is on very little. First Take is on very little in some of the syndicates meetings. Hey James, have you ever thought about having a meet and greet down here in New Orleans? I've never really thought about it. I mean, it is one of those things where, I think as the channels and as all this grows and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, more opportunities will happen. Whether those opportunities are things like merch, whether it's things like meet and greets, whether it's things like giveaways, whether it's things like live podcasts, somewhere, whether it's like, live. There's all kind of stuff that could happen. There's no plans for it right now. I'm always open to ideas or whatever else. So that's we're taking it one day at a time, but I'd be open to anything. Yeah, I'd be open to any of the ideas. Like I think it would be smart for like a place like Harrah's, like the casino here. Like I think it would be smart for them to like sponsor a live like draft showing or something like that, and try and collaborate with the channel. So you never know what'll happen. Is the next episode of the Madden franchise Sunday? Maybe I might try and get it out earlier, Divine, but Sunday we'll have an episode, but I might try and get the next one out earlier. It feels like DA has accepted mediocre pass rush, but balances it with great secondary. I think the pass rush wasn't. I think Cam Jordan going down really hurt things. I'm thinking that Chase Young's going to really change that. At least I hope so. All right, Dante is up next. The Inferno himself. 31 seconds of greatness. Let's go ahead and listen to what Dante has to say. Okay, now I got to refresh the page. Classic speak pipe.
Hey, Big Dog James. How's it going, man?
Man, there's nothing like dropping a big dog. I mean, that's got to be the best possible way to just introduce yourself. You drop a big dog on somebody, God, I mean, there ain't nothing better. There ain't nothing better than walking in, hitting somebody with a, hey, big dog. I mean, that normalize that, ladies and gentlemen. Normalize just dropping a big dog on somebody.
Man, hope you're having a good day. I had two questions. The first is, what do you think of the Brandon Ingram rumors surrounding his trade value or any trades that might be plausible, such as Trae Young or DeJounte Murray?
Yeah, I mean, the Brandon Ingram thing, not good. I'll tell you that if you're a Pelicans fan. I've been a season ticket holder for the Pels for 3 seasons now, go to almost every home game. So I've had to watch this for way too long. But, yeah, I mean, the Brandon Ingram situation is bad. The latest news was we tried to trade him to Houston for Sagoon, and Houston told us to GTFO, which obviously when you have a rumor like that go out, it's going to lower Brandon Ingram's trade value. All of a sudden now, Ingram's trade value is like maybe we can get role players for him. That's not good. That's not good when I mean, it wasn't too long ago Brandon Ingram was the franchise guy. And all of a sudden now it's like he's maybe tradable for like a Cam Johnson package. Like, that's tough. But, the game has changed also. Ingram is a slower, less athletic, doesn't play defense, mid-range kind of guy. In an NBA where players are getting more athletic, playing more defense, shooting more, playing faster, like, is he really that number one anymore? I don't know. So I hope we do find a way to get off of him. I do hope we find a way to trade him and get more assets. I think the team does need to get deeper and more talented. But yeah, the news is not good at all. When you hear that you're theoretically your second best player can't be traded for Sagoon, not good.
And if the other question is if you would be interested / would you do more Pelicans content?
Yeah, I would. I think this season coming up we'll probably push more Pelicans content. I'm up for any content that the viewers want to see. Like, obviously, the main channel, this channel, focuses on the NFL, sports, and the Saints. The Saints would be the top priority, then the NFL, then sports would be the third. We do videos. We have done Pelicans videos. We have done other sports videos. We just did a Trevor Lawrence video. We did a Caitlin Clark video a couple weeks ago. So we do cover it all. And I do plan on covering college football happenings, Pelicans happenings, things like that. So that will be part of the channel. The way I look at it, like, if I have an opinion, if I have a video that I believe is good for y'all. Like y'all, it's good analysis or good coverage or whatever. I don't really care what the topic is. We're going to publish it. So like yesterday's video. Yesterday's video was kind of a video essay on why Drew Brees has never won the MVP, and I felt like that was a better use of y'all's time watching that video than me talking about Isaiah Foskey or whoever else at minicamp. So we're never gonna we're gonna move stuff around. We're never gonna publish the same videos or stick to the same thing just because it works. That's the fun part of this channel. But yeah, we'll cover some Pel stuff. That series versus the Thunder was some of the worst basketball I've ever seen. God, so bad. Last season was awful. Last season was my least enjoyable season of Pelicans basketball. 100%. It was so bad. I have never disliked it. I have never disliked one of my favorite teams more than last season's Pelicans. I mean, it was just they were unrootable for. That's tough. Wait, let's see here. It's the next episode of the Madden franchise Sunday. We got to get a Madden simulation. That could be cool. You speak in my language. Tay-Tay and AK both lined up in the back. If Saban got Drew, we never get our Lombardi. Probably right. Yeah, probably right. Probably right. Oh, Thunder and Lightning. Taylor and AK. I see. The Pelicans are not starting the offseason well. That's for sure. No, they are not. Currently, we're talking about Willie Green being the next Pistons head coach. Who the hell is going to be the Pelicans head coach? Brandon Ingram we can't find a deal for him. Brutal. At least Zion was healthy, but I wish we would have seen more development from our young players. Yeah, 100%. I'll tell you what really happened last year was the fun parts of the Pelicans, like Jose and Larry and Najee and Dyson, like that whole rotation were horrible. Horrible. So we had no energy. Because whenever Jose got in the game and whenever the rotation was Jose, Larry, Najee, Dyson, and CJ, it was like, we can't score. This rotation cannot score. We cannot score with this. Cannot score with this rotation. It was miserable to watch. But 2 years ago, like Jose was the best parts of the game. Larry Nance was the best part of the game. Right? Like Najee was awesome. But now they don't. A Madden live stream? What's up, Uncle Chap? Yes. We're definitely going to do that. I need to figure out how to stream on the Madden channel. Because right now I think it's only set up for the main channel. So I need to get that figured out. But when I do get that figured out, we are for sure going to be doing Madden live streams. And definitely Madden 25. So yeah, I got to get all that set up. Because for some reason I can only stream on this channel right now, I think. And I don't want to put Madden stuff on here, obviously. Drew Holiday leads the Pelicans and wins 2 championships for 2 different teams in his first year. Yeah, crazy, man. Maybe. I mean, it is nuts. That is crazy, though, Brian. Normalize the use of big dog. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, just tomorrow, when you're walking around your daily life, just hit somebody with a big dog. Hit somebody with a "What's up, big dog?" Just drop that on them instead of saying, "How are you doing? How are you doing, sir? How are you doing, ma'am? Good morning, sir." Like instead of saying that, just drop it. What's going on, big dog? Really lean into it.
Be interested / would you do more Pelican?
Okay, so we listened. All right, so that's Dante's. Good stuff, Dante. The last call of the night from Matt. 42 seconds from Matt, from Matthias. Let's see here. It's crazy how he went from the 4th seed to the 8th seed in less than a month. God, so bad, man. We blew so many games. So many. Straight up Riley Reid'd the entire second half. All right. Here we go from Matt. 7 hours ago. So right around noon. High noon. Matt probably had a sandwich in one hand, microphone in the other hand, just letting it rip on speakpipe.com to the face of the franchise.
The first question is, do you play fantasy football?
Yes, I have one fantasy football league I've been doing for a long time now. It's a very serious fantasy league, off-site draft, all that kind of stuff, loser punishments. Very serious fantasy league. I only do one fantasy league. And It sounds cliche, but honestly, I think it's like once you start sports betting, it's very difficult to play fantasy sports. So it's like, it's almost like fantasy sports is almost a gateway to actually betting on the games. But I do play fantasy football and fantasy baseball. One fantasy football league, one fantasy baseball league. Both very serious, both very competitive, and that's enough for me.
Second, if so, do you have any recommendations for any players that you would consider to have a high fantasy value?
Matt is very well spoken. Matt, if you're in the chat, let me say that. Very well spoken. So it depends on the league, obviously, but if you're in a league where receptions, a PPR league, a points per reception league, ladies and gentlemen, Alvin Kamara obviously would be a huge pick because he's probably going to be undervalued because he had a bad year last year. But we would assume his receptions are going to skyrocket because of the system. We would assume his rushing yards are going to skyrocket because of the system. So I would say Kamara is a must. Y'all hear this, ladies and gentlemen? I would say Kamara is a must draft in the later rounds. So he's my first guy.
On the current Saints roster. In addition to that, I'm curious if you think that there are any potentially underrated or undervalued players that could potentially get a lot of points.
Yeah, Kamara. I would say he's undervalued and probably underrated as well.
I know a lot of times people point at Taysom Hill.
Taysom's boom or bust because Taysom is a touchdown and he's awesome. No touchdown, enjoy your 3 points because he doesn't get enough volume to get a lot of points. He's only going to touch the ball 5 or 6 times. So if he doesn't have a touchdown, you're talking about 3 carries for 22 yards and 1 catch for 9 yards. Okay, cool. Here's 4 points. Take these 4 points and shove it. So, but 4 points is one thing. 12 points is awesome, right? Like you get 6 points because of a touchdown, you get another catch, another carry, whatever. All of a sudden, damn, you got 11 points, 12 points from Taysom. Sweet. But he's not going to play quarterback that much anymore. Maybe not at all. So I would not recommend Taysom Hill. James, you have to make a fantasy football league with us viewers. Ooh, that's a good idea. We might have to figure something out. Get a couple leagues going, a couple giveaways. Okay. Now I'm gonna think about that.
It could be a bit of a crapshoot, but I just wanted to hear your insight on actually drafting Saints players for fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, besides Kamara, I think obviously you look at Olave, but even Olave, it's like you just don't. The problem is with fantasy, you need to be able to project out their usage. We don't have the ability to project out the usage of Chris Olave or the usage of Alvin Kamara, or we can do Kamara, but not Olave. We can't predict the usage of Rashid or Taysom because we haven't seen it yet, right? So, like Olave, you would think he's going to have a big year, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they spread the ball out. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if Kubiak found a way to get everyone involved. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, damn, Olave's sweet, but he doesn't get the usage that I want to really like make this a valuable selection. So I honestly, I really couldn't recommend, and I wouldn't recommend any of the tight ends. I mean, Foster doesn't really do much. Jawan Johnson's hurt. I don't know enough about the rookies. Again, like Kamara's sweet, but beyond him, like Jamal Williams, no, he doesn't get touchdowns anymore. Kendra Miller, what's his usage going to be? I don't know. A.T. Perry, same thing. Like we know the Saints are probably going to be a bottom 5-ish team and 3 wide receiver sets. What is that, as far as like usage of personnel packages? What does that mean for A.T. Perry? What does that mean for Rashid Shaheed? Some of the new rules, like does that make certain players like Rashid more valuable or less valuable? I don't know. So there's a lot of volatility with the personnel with the Saints. So it'd be very difficult for me to recommend drafting any of them. And Carr is the same way because I think Carr will have a good year. But if that good year is 33 touchdowns and 3,900 yards, like you can probably get that from everybody. You can probably get that from an undrafted quarterback. Yeah, good call. Very well spoken. Yeah. Always enjoy those calls. The speak pipe is awesome. I'm really glad we started doing that. It's so cool to be able to hear y'all kind of direct what we're talking about.